Hey everyone, welcome back to the Art2Life podcast. I am really excited to have my friend, business mentor, Stu McLaren with us today. He helps all kinds of creatives from authors, speakers, coaches, consultants, all kinds of business, take their expertise and create communities, membership sites, membership businesses. This is something that I've learned from Stu. Been doing this for 10 years now. And but what I particularly love about Stu and what I've learned is taking business and making it really heart driven and making it an extension of your creativity. And we're going to get into all kinds of things. He's got a new book coming out. So we'll be talking about that. But Stu, thanks so much for being here.
Nicholas, it's my pleasure, buddy. You're one of my favorite human beings in the world. So it's always great to be with you.
Yeah, fantastic. And so here's the thing that I was most surprised by creating a membership, which I think of as a community. I've been an artist my whole life, and I started just posting things early on, and because I was by myself and I was making art, and I was kind of just really isolated. And I found that when people commented back and shared my journey, it gave me confidence, frankly, and momentum. And so that I just kind of kept doing that, and grew this and found that if I was helpful, turns out I could be helpful because I was just doing art all the time. And I got more people in my little world, and it just created such a momentum for me. And then I was able to create a business around it, a membership, right, where people are in a community. And that's when I met you. And so I just kind of love that frame of what you do. I mean, that's how I think of it, that you can create something, you can build this community around you, and it helps everybody, but it also helps you, and it keeps you in the creative mode and gives you energy. And you really have ways of doing that it doesn't have to be this four-letter word that business is like this separate thing from art. It's going to take away from your art, right?
No, they're really, they jam well together, more so today than ever before. What's interesting is I grew up out in the country, Nicholas. So literally cows on one side, corn on the other, out in the middle of nowhere. And so when I grew up, the only thing that I really had as a reference point was farming. I grew up working on a farm. That's where all of my friends, the direction they went all through high school. I worked on farms. That was all I ever saw and knew. So growing up in that environment, if you had an outside interest in something that was different than what this local community was, then it was really hard, and you probably didn't want to share it. You didn't want to talk about it because you'd be like that guy. You'd be like this outsider guy.
Yeah.
But then fast forward, now with the internet, this is what I love, because you can have crazy, peculiar passions and interests, and there's guaranteed to be someone out there in the world that has those same interests. And then when you can create that place where you can bring those people together who have those peculiar interests, now they don't feel like an outsider. Now they feel validated. Now they feel like they found their people, and there's magic there. Because when they have that space, now they can flourish, because they're not squashing themselves or hiding themselves or keeping it. Now they feel confidence in hey, these are my people. They get me. They understand me. Let's go. And there's energy there. And so that's why I love online communities and memberships. It's you are able to create this place that has energy for a group of people where everywhere else in the world, they probably can't find that. But in your one little spot of the world, they can, and it's magical.
Yes, yes. And I talk about entrepreneurship here because entrepreneurship for me is moving towards where the energy is to sustain you, to create from, to build that. I'm always talking about try to stay focused on what you love and energy, but You're absolutely right. The fact is there are people, there's so many people out in the world, and I had no idea about this, that you can just put things out into the world and it brings people like you that can help you on your journey and you can help them. And suddenly you've got this amazing momentum and that's a business. I mean, it's kind of amazing. And it fits so perfectly with whatever you're trying to create. And I think people think that what they're making or what their vision of what they want to create, that they're by themselves. And it's really not true.
Yeah, like you don't have to be that, lone wolf that,
Yeah.
is trying to figure everything out or blaze your own, single track trail. Like now there's just this beautiful opportunity not only to share, but to collaborate and to work with. And Nicholas, because, I've been in your studio and there's like incredible inspiration that comes when you're collaborating with others, when you're sharing ideas with others, when you're, trying different techniques with each other and experimenting with
Yeah.
each other. And like, that's when like you begin to have breakthroughs that otherwise by yourself, you probably wouldn't have. And that's the magic and the opportunity that we have today is to really help people grow far beyond what they ever would trying to do things by themselves. And everybody wins in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah. And talk about here was the limiting, the thing that I hear that gets in the way for people is that they're postponing, they're waiting to do something like this to reach out in the world. Because I see this with artists that they're not going to put their work out because it's not good yet. And they certainly don't feel that they're in a position to help anyone because they're just sort of beginning. And I always say that, your path, especially if you're just starting, is really helpful for people because that's what's hard to do is the beginning stages. If you're doing it, you can help people, right? There's no like you need to wait and become this amazing thing. You just have to put yourself out there, which can be hard.
Yeah. Well, I always think like, imagine that version of you that was literally one step behind where you are now. So like you've taken that like one step forward. That person who hasn't taken that step forward, you are the most inspiring thing to them in this moment because you're at arm's length. Like they can see themselves in you because you're just one step ahead. So you may not be, in this case, the greatest artist in the world. You may not have like all these things in publications, or you may not have like your own art show or anything of that nature. But like you're one step in front, and that is a reality that they could see themselves in, and that's inspiring. So, if you wait to share your art, or if you wait to share your story or those things, then you're essentially shutting off all of those potential people that could be gaining inspiration from you. And you're saying to them essentially like, don't share your work until you're like a master artist. And that sounds ludicrous, right? So like, sharing your work along your journey is inspiring for everybody, especially the people that are literally one step behind you, because they can see themselves in you, and it's a much brighter reality than somebody who's so far down the road that seems unrealistic. But if you're one step in front, it seems realistic for them, and they'll gain inspiration from it.
Absolutely. I see this firsthand for me, but I don't know why. I don't know if it's because if you're creating something, if we're creative, there's vulnerability baked into it, because you're not really sure. You're making something that hasn't existed before. So it's this extra step, that I know a lot of people listening have, where it just doesn't feel like sharing is the natural reaction to making something new that you're not really sure about, right? I'm going to go share it. I'm going to go talk about it. But it is really the very beginning of building a community, of gathering people. You have to like hold something up for them to see,
Yeah, and it creates a discussion point, because like things may not go according to plan. Like I'll give you a good example. There's a designer that I follow on Instagram, and he primarily does like logo designs. And sometimes he'll just pick like a company and who has like a logo that he feels is outdated, that could be revised. And then he'll like, go through and redesign it as like what he thinks it should be done. And the other
Right.
day I saw one of his posts, and the community did not like the new logo that he created. Like they totally like,
Oh,
said it was awful.
oh my God.
He should
Right.
keep it as the original, blah, blah, blah. Now, to his credit, he's like, hey, listen, okay, got it. I heard the feedback. Here's my iteration of that. And it was another piece of content. It was, a revised version of the logo. And it was just great because he was, working it out in
Hmm.
public with everybody. And his work is getting better and better and better. Now, the fun part about this is that he doesn't get everything right. Like there are logos that he absolutely nails, but then there's other ones like this one in the case that the public are just like, nah, the original's better. But he learns from that and he shares that
Yeah.
process and that experience. And all the while, he's gaining all these eyeballs and people who
Yeah.
want to hire him because they're seeing how his work could positively impact them and their logo, their branding, and
Yeah.
so forth. And it's opening up all kinds of opportunities. So I think like one of the things that I want to encourage everybody watching and listening is just, I know that we typically, our brains go to worst case scenario, which is like, I'm going to put this out and it's going to, people are going to make fun of me. It's going to lead to horrible
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
and blah, 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 blah. Like our brains go there. But I just also want to encourage people to hold space for best case scenario. Like, what if you do share this journey? And what if it grabs the attention of somebody and perhaps that leads to a collaboration or an introduction or an opportunity that you never otherwise would have seen coming?
Yeah.
Like we have to hold space for those kinds of opportunities too, because those do happen. And so my encouragement is to share all along the way, and
Yeah.
and realize that that's part of the journey, and to talk about it like that's part of the journey. Like you can say, listen, I'm just in the early stages of my journey and I'm excited by it because I've got a passion and interest for it, and I may not be where I want to be yet, but that's okay. I'm on this journey and I'm constantly learning, and that just dissolves all of that potential
Yeah.
negativity, because people aren't going to fault you for wanting to learn, right? And
Yeah.
away
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah, absolutely. I say what I've been saying all along, and because I have this fear that I don't want to be like preaching something, or I don't want to pretend like, or try to make people think that I know definitively the answer. So I always just say what I'm showing you is it really worked for me, which is true. It might work for you. You check it out and see if it works for you, kind of thing, and that's the same thing. It's like, who's going to fault you? It's like, I'm just sharing what I'm excited about. And this little reframe, and I think I learned it from you, Stu, is so powerful
Mm,
because what you're double downing on is your own enthusiasm, your
yeah,
own energy. And that is bulletproof. And because it keeps you going, because it's true. And who doesn't want to hear about someone having a kind of, they're amazed by something? Everyone wants to see what people are involved in when they have energy. The only thing that we need to make sure we're doing is we have to make sure that we're actually doing what we're excited about, right?
totally.
But I think, and that's why I wanted to have you on today. I know I have so many people that are making all kinds of things, and you get the work stronger by putting more energy into it. But this sharing thing, turn it into a membership site or not, but you can build a community. You can build a community, and that can be just to support yourself. It can also, like your friend who is, selling graphic design. It brings attention. And
Yeah.
then that creates opportunities. It doesn't have to look like any one particular thing, but the key is to step out of your comfort zone and share what you're doing. I think it's just the hard thing, but it's the most powerful thing. And you never know the crazy opportunities that come around because you've shared things.
Well, I don't think people sometimes realize just how amazing a time we live in. Like, here's an example. So I mentioned I grew up out in the middle of nowhere. So growing up, if I had an interest in, let's say, balloon animals, like I would have been like the only guy in any, anywhere near me that would have had an interest in that. And I would have felt like a lone wolf. But there's a woman, her name is Holly George. She's in our community. She is a stay-at-home mom. Her husband's in the military, so he's gone a lot of the time. She wanted to be able to earn some extra money, but at the same time, she also had young kids that she was taking care of. So she couldn't like go out and get a quote regular job because it would have taken her away from the kids. But she had an interest in balloon animals. And so she started sharing that. She started sharing like how she was making these different balloon animals, and she was sharing it on YouTube, and all of a sudden like this YouTube channel starts to grow. And then she realizes like, hey, there's people who have interest in this. There's people who want to learn this. She doesn't think she's the world's foremost expert on balloon animal making, but she's got a passion and an interest in it. And she was just sharing what she was doing. So she starts this community, and this community is called the Twisterhood. and it's this membership. And before she knows it, she's got thousands of members. And Nicholas, this is a 6-figure business teaching people how to make balloon animals, for crying out loud. Like, this is what is so insane. Or I think of Tamara Bennett. When I first heard Tamara and the community that she was creating, I had never heard this before. And I was like, I had to lean in and ask her, again and again, just to double check that I understood but she has a membership teaching people how to make decorative door hangers. And I said to her, I'm like, Tamara, you got to help me understand here. Is this like when I'm at the hotel and I put like the do not disturb sign on the back of the door? And she's like, oh no, Stu. She's like, here in the South, she said, we make these decorative door hangers that go on our front door. It's like a big deal. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, it's like a whole thing. And when she launched her membership, she welcomed more than 400 members right out of the gate for this membership that talks about decorative door hangers. And we have so many artists in so many different types of niche markets that it's mind-blowing. I think of like Bonnie Snowden as an example.
Yeah.
In 2021, she started a membership teaching people how to draw realistic animals with colored pencils. Like, think of how specific that is. Drawing realistic animals with colored pencils. And in 2 years, she had grown that membership to $1 million plus membership. Like, that's insanity. But that's the magical world that we live in now. Like, you can be so niche with your art and with your passion for your craft. And there are thousands, if not tens of thousands or millions of people around the world who share the same passion and interest. They're just waiting for somebody to stand up and say, come on here, let's come here, let's congregate, let's learn together, let's share, let's do this thing. And that's the magic of being able to create and bring a people together in a community and a membership.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so comforting to make things with people, to be, and I've experienced this. I do these destination retreats, and I know you know about them. And it's like we get a group of people and we go to a nice place and we all make art together and we're talking and listening to music and sharing. And I swear it is the most fun thing to do. And it's comforting because everyone's trying to figure it out and you get inspired from other people. So creating a community around what you love doing, it can feel daunting. And I'm really good friends with Bonnie, and there's growing pains to this, but ultimately it's all comes back to how excited she is about coloring with colored pencils. And she's so great. She's just like, Nick, when I do this, I just get lost. I just love it, and I feel like this is the secret to peace of mind. And that's what she's talking about. And she gathers all these people that share that, and her work's amazing, but it's super calming for her, which I thought was so interesting. It's like she just loves getting lost in the minutia of these amazing pictures. They're so wonderful, right?
And
But
what's
that's so particular to what she loves, and others come for that.
Yeah. And what's interesting about Bonnie, like she has been sharing her journey online. And if you look at like where she is now and where she was when she began, there's a stark difference between the two. And but what's amazing is that she didn't let where she was prevent her from beginning to share. And that's the whole point. Like
Yeah,
people are inspired by where she was and where she is now and ultimately where she's going. And that's the same for all of us. Like people will draw inspiration from the fact that you're on the journey. Like, and we're talking about art, but there's all kinds of examples of us being on journeys. Maybe it's like the journey of repairing a relationship that has been, fractured in
totally.
some way. Or
Yeah,
maybe it's like a health journey. There's nothing more inspiring than seeing somebody who like is at their worst health, begin a journey of like rebuilding to the best version of
yeah,
themselves. And there's
yeah,
just something inspiring about that. And like that's the whole point in what we're sharing here is like no matter where you are in your journey, somebody somewhere is going to draw inspiration from that. And that's the point. That's where they're drawing inspiration from it. We're helping inspire others to be able to do it for themselves. And we're not saying that we're like the world's foremost expert. We're not waiting until we've developed this expertise. We're just doing it now. And that's the magic of it is we're like coming together and we're making it happen.
yeah. I love it. I love it. And because when you frame it up that way, there's really no you can just get started right now. You can.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I was doing art in New York City and I was working in my apartment and I was alone all the time. And the only person that was back in the day when like I Federal Expressed illustrations and I would wait for the FedEx guy to come and I would show him what I was working on. He was my only contact, so hilarious. But you can just get this going now, just starting by sharing what you're doing, get used to talking about it and see who starts listening. Like
Mm.
what is for you like, and I know, you create challenges and you get people going to try this, like start the thing and figure it out. Talk to us about just the single biggest step, the easiest step to kind of like dip their toe in kind of thing. And I want to dive into your book a little bit, but you've got some really good ways of moving into this that are not big, are not hard, not scary.
Well, here. I'm gonna pull a couple a book. There's a book that I draw a lot of inspiration from. And you talk about like what's the single biggest step that we can take forward. I actually want to encourage everybody to do the complete opposite. I want you to think about like the teeniest, tiniest little step that you can take forward. Like, and I've drawn inspiration from this book. It's called Tiny Habits from BJ Fogg. And basically the whole premise is this, Nicholas. It's like if you want to get to, let's say, doing 100 push-ups a day, just start with one. Just
Yeah.
just and just do one and then count that as a win for the day. Like that's it. And it almost feels like so stinking simple that you'd be like, okay, how am I ever going to get to 100 push-ups just by doing one? But that's not the point. The point
Right.
is to develop the habit. And
Yeah.
the way the habit will be formed is by making it so stinking simple. And so the whole premise that I would say for everybody is like, what's like the easiest, almost most insignificant step that you could take, that you could do today, and just do it and count that as a win. Like here's an example. A good friend of mine, Michael Hyatt, I was talking to him about writing a book. Before I wrote, my book, which is coming out. But before I wrote that, I was talking to him about like how do I write a book? And I was asking him about like his writing habits and how he's done it, and he's wrote multiple bestsellers. And he said, the first thing that I do, Stu, is I just create a new Google Doc with a working title. That's it. That's the first day when I'm working on the book. That's the first thing I do. He's like, I don't even put anything in it. I just create the doc
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
just the title. That's it. And that's his first day done. That's check mark. Like, worked on the book, check one. And it's so stinking simple. Like, many people watching and listening might be like, that's it? He's just making a doc with the name on it? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And then the next day, he'll like write down like a table of contents, like a rough outline. Like, I want a section on this, a section on that, and a section on this. That's it. Doesn't get into actually writing any of the book yet. Then he, breaks that down even further. But the point is that he's making it so stinking simple, and he's developing the habit of doing this on a regular basis. And so that would be my piece of encouragement. When I think about the membership side of things, people get hung up on like all these things that they think they should do, need to do, all blah, blah, blah. But the reality of it is, you don't need to do any of those things. Like, you can launch a membership site literally by the end of today, because there's only a real small, tiny few things that you can need to do. And most people will be able to do that today. But that seems so like far-fetched.
Yeah.
So we break it down for people. And what's amazing, Nicholas, is that like when you break things down for people where it's so stinking simple, then they come face to face with the reality of the situation, because there's no more excuses. Like, there's no more excuses. And so then we get to the heart of the matter, which is the reality of why we don't move forward is very little that we are unprepared, or we don't have this, or we got to wait for that. It's just that we're scared. And if we can just come to terms with that and then navigate that and deal with that, the world begins to open up. And so like when people are throwing out excuse after excuse as to why they can't move forward, that's just fear talking in a different format. And so let's just make it so stinking simple, and then address the number one thing that is holding us back. And then now we set ourselves up for success. So with membership sites, we walk people through a super simple process called the founding member launch. And it's literally just creating one message to an audience. And it doesn't need to be an audience of tens of thousands or thousands. It could be an audience of literally like 200 people, whether it's 200 people on Facebook or Instagram, or 200 subscribers to a YouTube channel or a podcast, or 200 people on an email list, or 200 people, clients or customers, like wherever you got 200 people or more. And it's just about crafting a message to those people. And what's amazing is that message, like I said, could be crafted today, and that puts things in motion. And that's the most important thing of all, is that you've got to get in motion, because the tendency is you want to have all the things figured out. But it's just like in art, Nicholas. Like, I've been in your studio, and like you've coached me through it. It's like, Stu, you're not going to know how this is going to turn out. Like, I remember being in your studio working on a piece of art, and I was feeling like it was coming to an end, and then you come along and dump some paint over top, and you're like, okay, now let's get creative and do this and do that. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And what you're saying and teaching me in that moment is like, listen, we're never going to know exactly how it's going to play out, but we got to do something to get the wheels in motion. And that's my encouragement, is don't take one big step. Take the teeniest, tiniest little step, count that as a win, and move on to the next day.
No, it's so good. That's just absolutely. And, I like to frame it that what helps me is I say to myself, well, I'm just moving towards the thing. All I got to do is move towards it. And so that, for me, that's the same. It's like this step is it a move towards it? It was funny because today I had this health thing, and I've been working on my health, and I've been going to the gym, and it's not something I've done. I do a lot of running, but I had some, I'm wanting to get stronger or whatever. And so I started a gym practice, and I'm getting some coaching on it. But today, when I was there, it's an app, and it comes up and it said, you've done 100 workouts, and I realized, wow, like that's kind of extraordinary. That's a lot of time that
Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't been that hard, frankly. It's only an hour, to fit this in. But I mean, I've worked at it. I've been in different countries. I find gyms and I go to them. But I think that what you're saying is like take these steps and then, small step even, but we got to take time to kind of celebrate this along the way. It was never something I really did. I just am always behind. And
Mm.
now I really do. Like the fact that I'm talking about this thing, it's like 100, but it's actually pretty awesome. And I'm going to probably post about it because that took a lot of work and I'm not there yet. I'm never going to be, Mr. Atlas, but I feel like I'm much better than I was.
Totally. And I think you hit the nail on the head, Nicholas. It's not so much about the outcome. It's more about the habits and the process of getting to the outcome.
Yes.
And it's like it's who you become. And what I would say to all the adults who have children is I would encourage you to think about what you would say to your kids.
Yeah.
Like, so often if we saw our kids wanting to do something, but were scared out of their mind to move forward, what would we say to them? We'd be like, look, let's just break it down to like that first step. Like I'll give you an example. When I was graduating high school, my last year of high school, I tried out for this traveling soccer team. It was like a high level team. And I had played for the team the year prior. Yeah, but every year everybody had to try out again. And so I tried out and I didn't make it. I got cut and I was devastated. And
Oh,
Nicholas, like I had visions of wanting to play pro soccer. And here I couldn't even like make this team. And not only that, but I was going to university after that summer and I wanted to try out for the university team. But
oh,
I didn't make this traveling team and I was devastated. And I wanted to
oh,
give up on all things soccer. Like I was just like, okay, I'm done. Like my career's done. I can't, obviously I'm not at that level. And I was thinking all these negative thoughts. And I was just like, I was in this, dark place when it came to soccer. And my dad and my mom, to their credit, they're just amazing human beings. And they recognize like they could try to give me that like rah rah, let's go get them. You're good enough. You can do this, kind of speech. But they realized like that probably was not going to have the effect that they were hoping for. And so they just gave me space. Initially, they just gave me space. But my dad knew that I wanted to play on and try out for the university soccer team. And I got cut in like March. And I would be trying out if I were to try out for the university team in August. So there was like time in between. So he let, a week or so go by, didn't really say too much, and then he just planted the idea. He said, hey, why don't you just join like a local team just to kick a ball around, just to, have fun. Like maybe
right.
just just a men's team, like not practicing, multiple times a week, just like a game once a week. And I was like, okay. So I joined this like men's team and it was just a kick around. But secretly, my dad knew that he just had to get me going again, just get me the
Yeah.
wheels in motion again.
Yeah.
And so again, I start playing once a week, and I start to get the fire back and the excitement back. And this wasn't a competitive league; it was just a fun league. But I was back on the field, I was scoring goals again, and my confidence was rising. And then as the summer went on, my dad then started to talk to me, and my mom talked to me about potentially trying out for the university team. Now, and this was a long shot because there'd be
Wow.
like 300 plus, guys trying out for 7 or 8 spots. And it was a long shot, but they just built me up to that point. So then I had the willingness to try out
Mm.
for the team. And it was just one day at a time. It was just like they take the 300 guys and they're trying to cut it down to 150 the next day and 75 the next day. And they just keep cutting down, keep
Oh,
cutting down.
God.
And you just got to take it one day at a time. But here I am. I'm so proud to say that like I did make the team. And then we went on to win 2 national championships with that team. And I think back to like what transpired and how I got there and
Yeah.
how I was so close to like giving up, right?
Yeah.
And the whole journey back was just taking that like most simple, easiest next right step. And to what we've been talking about, you just never know where it can lead. And you just never know where what momentum can be gained from taking that next right step. Like, dude, you're on 100 days. That's incredible.
I
Like, that
know.
is amazing.
I
And
know.
like when
I
you
can't
think of the
believe it.
Nicholas Wilton today versus 100 days ago, totally different. And
Yeah.
that's what's magical about it, is like there's momentum and confidence that gets built. And I
Yeah.
just want to encourage everybody to never, ever underestimate the significance of that teeny tiny step and how that can compound in good fortune for you. But it all starts with the willingness just to take that step.
And I love that these, little micro steps forward, it's about a future identity, right? Like
Mm,
we can't maybe make, we visualize, we dream. I mean, because this is what creatives do. They're making something in their future. They're dreaming of something they want, and it's usually kind of scary, but you get to become this person through these micro steps that is almost inevitable that this can happen. But I love that we have to transform ourselves along the way. And I just think that's so exciting because has nothing to do with age. It has nothing to do with economic, any of that. It's just you have dominion over yourself, and you can get yourself in a process that blooms you, that makes
yeah.
you the best version of you, and doing it with other people, right? And inviting others in creates tremendous momentum. It's so cool. I had no idea that. I know soccer was a huge part of your background because you love Adidas, but that's an amazing story that you. I get it too. When you get a rejection, you almost it's like, well, forget it then. I'm done.
Yeah. You
I
just,
don't know what that is, but it's like it's just painful. It's like, no, cut that off. What
and
a brilliance.
I think that's what it is though, Nicholas. Like in that moment when you do feel it is painful and you do feel a sense of rejection, and you don't want to put yourself through that. So you try to cut it off in your mind and you're like, okay, fine, I'm done. And I just think about like all the creatives who are watching and listening who, maybe in their youth, were passionate and lit up by
Yeah.
art and drawing and painting and crafting and all those things. And then they just put it on the back burner because life gets in the way, and they don't pick it back up again. And it's like, it's not that the passion and the interest, is gone. No. They just squashed it so down deep because they're
Yes. Yes.
afraid of
Yeah.
like letting that come out
Oh,
now. Like, who am I to think that I could, paint? Who am I to think that I could draw like later in life? Like,
yeah.
and we start to think that we got to be all this, a certain way or listen, we live in this great opportunity right now
Yeah.
where we can explore. We can explore with others who are exploring. We can share with others who are sharing. And like, this is so magical right now that I just think it's underestimated. And again, I want to come back to like the kids because, you've got, older kids now, Nicholas. My
Yeah.
kids are growing up so fast and it's just top of mind for me. And one of the things that Amy and I, my wife and I talk about a lot is just like showing up for our kids, like leading the life that we would want our kids to live. Meaning like if we want to encourage them to pursue their passions, then they've got to see us pursuing our passions. If we
Yes.
want to encourage them to be courageous, they've got to see us being courageous. If we want to encourage them to be kind human beings, they've got to see us being kind human beings. And I think that like in today's world, we can't underestimate the influence that we have on people just through them seeing who we are, what we do, and how we show up.
Mm.
And so
Love
if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for your loved ones
it.
so
Right.
that you're showing them what's possible through what you're doing.
Yes, yes. One of the stumbling blocks, and I just kind of want to circle it back to, you were talking about where you start with this, and I want to take a little time and just talk about your book now. But you were talking about, just it's like a statement. It's what is that sentence? What is that frame that you can lead with? It's your personal brand. Can you just give us, some pointers on that? Like obviously, because I think it's very helpful to do this for a creative, to write in a simple sentence what they're excited about, which is really what you're asking. But can you talk about that? Because I think that is the next a very simple thing to do, but it's hard in a way too.
So it's in my book called Predictable Profits, and specifically it's on chapter 5. Okay, and
Okay.
it's a simple tool. The title is called This simple tool makes attracting your audience easy and effortless. So let me give it to you here.
Okay.
One of the most effective things that we can do is to take out a sheet of paper and draw a line straight down the middle. At the top of the left column, I want you to write the words now. And at the top of the right column, I want you to write the words future.
Hmm.
And then what we want to do in the left column is we want to list single words or short phrases that describe what our market is thinking, feeling, and doing in their pursuit of whatever outcome. So like, let's say it's art. Okay. So let's just take this as an
Yeah.
example. Actually, you know what? Let's do this together, Nicholas. So
Okay.
let's take art. We'll do it together. So
And
if you
this is easy in a way because I'm describing me, Usually
exactly,
we are when we say the customer, you are the customer, right? This is pretty easy to know where you are.
yeah. Okay. So let's say that let's take some single words to describe that person right now in terms of what they're thinking. So they want to pursue art. Maybe they haven't done it yet. What kinds of things are they thinking, Nicholas?
They are thinking they're not talented.
Okay.
They're thinking about that elementary school teacher who said they were not artistic,
Mm,
right? These are, they're thinking that they could never do this in a way that could financially help them. There's no money in art, right? For a lot of people, it's a luxury. It's an extravagance to go into art because it's doesn't pay the bills or and I think there's a lot of limiting beliefs around that, right?
yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah.
These are all great thoughts. Okay, what about feelings? What are they feeling?
They're they're feeling uncertain.
Mm.
There can be a little shame in this, just a little bit, because,
Unpack that for me. What do you mean?
well, because the soul, the inside, like so many artists I talk to, and when you don't follow what you're called to do inside, deep inside, and you postpone it. And it's like, yeah, I know it's there, but I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything. And I talk to a lot of artists that like have an open studio or they'll come to a gallery opening and they'll share that they diverted. I mean, if they could do their life over again. It's really like this. There's a regret that they
Mm.
didn't that they didn't answer what it was. They don't know what it is, but they didn't answer the desire they had from earlier time, and there's a bit of regret there. And that's what's so powerful when people start making art, because like the soccer, the next right step is just to get in motion. And suddenly, I mean, who cares if you're never going to be Picasso, but you're making art and it's so damn exciting and fun. You can have this right away. And that's really, Stu, I mean, that's what I really try to do. And we have this whole thing called the Bloom practice, and it's literally for people to we're teaching a very, very simple way to get in motion.
Yeah.
So, but and once they do that, things get cruising. But I think there's just a little bit of regret there for
I
those who
love
haven't
that.
really started. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, and then what are they doing or not doing at this point?
They're not making art, or they're not participating in this consistently. It's very hit and miss. And so it doesn't give them enough energy because the practice, or it's not consistent. So they're not really doing it consistently. They're often not sharing what they're making
Yeah.
because they're so unsure about it.
This is great. And then would it be fair to say that they're maybe buying a whole bunch of paints and materials and stuff, but like they got this
Yes,
stash,
yes,
but it's just
yes,
not being
yes. So
used?
they're gathering because it's like, I'm this way. I'm always buying, workshops online or offline. I'm always buying the thing. I'm buying the books. I'm going to buy that book that you've mentioned today, and I just love the information. Um, and then but it's quite another thing to read the book, and it's quite another thing to do the strategy or take an action step. So yes, having all the art materials, having everything, you have a place to work, you have all the art materials, but it's scary. So you don't make a move. Yeah.
Okay. This is great. I'm writing down now. Let me flip to the future. And I would encourage everybody watching and listening to just go through this exercise as we're going along. Right now, we've just gone through the left-hand side. We've talked about single words or short phrases that describe what somebody's thinking, feeling, and doing and or not doing. Now let's flip to the future. What is somebody thinking who is pursuing their art and is lit up by that? What are they thinking now?
I think what happens when you participate in things that bring you alive, you you have more energy. You're kind of amazed that you waited so long, that this was easier than you thought, and that there's such an energetic benefit to your life. I mean, I think this really cuts across everything. It impacts all of it.
Okay, so I wrote down the thoughts. Why did I wait so long? This is easier than I thought. Is there any others that you would add to that list?
Um, yes, that I have something authentic and very important to express. Turns out, I'm sort of surprised that I like what I make, and I didn't know that I had that in me until I put it down and I kind of worked at this for a while. It's been waiting there the whole time. And that it's not about talent. This is not only available for me, but it's for everybody. It's available for everybody. Everybody is creative in equal measure. And I just didn't know. I didn't believe it for me, but now I do. And I can see it in everyone else.
Great. What about feelings? You said they feel like they've got more energy.
Yeah, I think they feel I think they feel more in their heart, more in their emotions, more in the internal sort of calmness of grounded sense of themselves, because they're seeing evidence of themselves in the world much, much more than the normal, right? When you make art, and I think this is what happens, why it's so powerful, is suddenly you have this other thing next to you that kind of feels like you, and you look at and you think of it as this conversation, and it starts to give you it teaches you about yourself, and there's clues and there's evidence of you becoming this newer version of yourself. Like there's an actual, I did this and then I did this. It's like the 100 workouts. It's like, wow, 100, 150, 200, something's happening. That's what's so great about art. You get this little reminder, this little visual kind of measuring point.
Fantastic. Okay, let's talk about what they're doing. So before they weren't making art, they weren't consistent, and they weren't sharing. Would it be fair to say that now they're doing the opposite of all three of those things?
Yeah, they're talking about it. They can't stop thinking about it. And not that you have to be obsessed, but this tends to happen to people in our world, that it starts out as this little innocuous little kind of hobby, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So you're talking about it, you're sharing about it, you're more excited, and you're wanting to learn more. What you've learned becomes it's great, this foundation. And so it allows you to take little bigger steps, more steps forward, more steps forward. And there's a layering and a complexity and a richness that comes over time, over time with this.
Okay. Here's why this little exercise, it's so stinking simple, but it's so powerful. And this is what I want everybody to take from this. Because when you're describing what it is that you do, one of the most powerful things is to be able to create contrast between two worlds.
Yeah.
Just like in art, there's magic in contrast. And the same is true with the words that we use to describe what it is that we do. So when we can describe what it is that we do, where there's contrast between their now world and their future world, all of a sudden, what it is that we're offering comes alive. So let's just say, it's a membership or a community. When we describe their now world and we contrast that to the future world, the human brain automatically builds a bridge between those two worlds. And that bridge is your membership. It's what it is that you're offering. So watch this. Watch this,
Okay.
Nicholas. We're just going to create contrast between two worlds based on what you said. I wrote down your words here. Here's what you said. If we were to describe this journey of becoming an artist, right now, somebody might be thinking, I'm not talented. I can't do this. And to top it off, there's no money in art. It's not going to pay the bills. It's a luxury to go in art. And in that, you're also probably thinking about that one teacher way back in the day who criticized that one piece of art. And that criticism has deflated your self-confidence all of these years later. And it's created a feeling of uncertainty. It's even created a feeling of regret, because even though you're telling yourself that there's no money in art, it won't pay the bills, you can't do this, there's this feeling that you really do genuinely want to pursue it. And there's this sense of regret that you haven't pursued it up to this point, and it's almost like it's too late, or you're feeling like it's too late. Now, you may be gathering stuff, you may be buying materials, you may be learning, but you're not doing anything. You're definitely not making art. You're definitely not consistent with any art that you may be doing, and you're definitely not showing that art because there's so much uncertainty about what it is that you're doing. But imagine being able to come from a completely different place, where your thoughts are totally different. Your thoughts aren't that I'm not talented enough or I can't do this, but your thoughts are more like, this is easier than I thought. Why did I wait so long? I do have something important to share, and I like what I make. It's been waiting here the whole time. I see how everyone is creative, and now I believe it, and I see it in myself. And there's a feeling of more energy and excitement, operating more from the heart and emotions, and feeling more confident in themselves, knowing they are more of who they are meant to be. You're the best version of yourself. You're making art, you're thinking about art all the time, you're talking about art all the time, you're sharing it, you're consistent, and you're wanting to learn more as the art grows on you and flourishes in every other part of your life. That's possible when you join the Art2Life membership. Now, time out. All we have done is just create contrast between two worlds. And so you ask the question, like, how can we describe what it is that we do? In the next chapter of the book, after this exercise, I walk people through creating a positioning statement, which is simply going through this list of words that we have taken here and selecting 2 or 3 that really capture the essence of what we do. So I'll give you the most simple example. There's a gentleman who I was chatting with who had interest in starting a membership site. He is a communications expert. And I want you to listen to how he describes what he does. I have memorized it because it's so powerful and simple. And it's contrasting two worlds. You ready?
Yeah.
He helps people argue less and talk more.
Wow.
Contrast between two worlds. Their now world is arguing. The future world that they want is talking. He's created this simple statement that says, I help people argue less and talk more. That is such a simple way of being able to describe what he does. We get it right away, instantaneously. We're like, I get it, I'm in. And all he's done is he's just created contrast between two worlds. So when you do this messaging map exercise that we just went through, it's like a brainstorming process. It's one of the most powerful ways to create incredible sales copy for whatever it is that you want to offer. But in the same token, it's the step before being able to create a positioning statement where we're just going to go through, we're going to select a few of those words that really pop, that really land. And now when we share it with our market, people get it, and then they instantly want it, all because of the magic of contrast.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. And contrast is the primary principle. Putting two different things together, that's what creates the tension, the richness in art. That's everything, and it's so cool how this is the same in messaging, and of course, poetry, speeches, all of this, that contrast. You guys, and that was amazing, Stu. That was so good.
Well, it's what's fun about it, Nicholas, is that again, it's a very simple exercise, and all of us can sit down. We can take out a sheet of paper. We can draw a line straight down the middle. Now at the top on the left-hand side, future at the top of the right-hand side. We can think of single words and short phrases that describe what people are thinking, feeling, and doing. But the magic comes when you just go through the exercise and then you visually hold it up and you look at the difference between those two worlds. That's ultimately what we're offering people, is a transformation. Too often, whether it's in the art space, whether it's, selling another product or service, doesn't matter. Unfortunately, most people focus on the stuff. And what they don't focus on is the transformation that's possible. Like, it's like a piece of art, Nicholas. I've gotten turned on to art because of you. And, we were in Alberta, Canada this year with our family. And I went into this art studio. And it was this photographer who takes the most gorgeous photos of nature. And I stood there in front of this one piece, and I was just moved. Like, I could feel like my emotions inside of me. Like, I'm almost getting like choked up here, like thinking about it. Like, it was just so beautiful. And I and I think about, like, as artists, we're not selling a photo. We're capturing something in the essence of whatever we're creating that's designed to make people feel something.
Yes.
And when we describe our art, it's not just a painting. It's not just a photograph. It's not just a drawing. There's so much more to that. And that's what we've got to give words to. We've got to bring it to life by talking about how people's lives will be transformed because of that art. And that's the magic of being able to sell whatever it is that we want to offer effectively, is not focusing on the actual stuff, but focusing on how someone's life will be better or different because of what it is that we're offering. Whether it's a piece of art, whether it is a membership, whether it's a doohickey gadget, doesn't matter. We focus on the transformation, and that is what people are ultimately buying.
Yeah. I love that, artists, we're connected to the heart, to the emotions, and this is where we want to stay in the conceptualizing and the communication of these. How is it going to change? How are you going to feel when you get there? That's so powerful.
Yeah.
Wow. So Stu, share us the book again one more time. Hold it up. And when this is coming out, right, there'll be a link in the show notes, you guys. There'll be a link to pre-order this.
Yeah. So definitely. Yeah. This is 16 plus years of experience helping people take the things that they know, love, and do and transform it into a thriving business with a membership. It's what you've done, Nicholas. It's what Bonnie Snowden has done that we talked about earlier. It's what Holly George has done with her, balloon animals. But it's taking the things that we know, love, and do and turning it into a membership. And here's why that's important. Because when I think about like us wanting to create art, the number one stressor for all entrepreneurs is finances. Where is the money going to come from next month? Yeah. And the beauty about a membership is that you don't worry about that. There's so much predictability and stability that comes with recurring revenue. And that's what we help people do in this book. So it's 16 years distilled down into 215 pages. It is by far my best work. I'm so stinking proud of this. And it's going to help so many people. Yeah. And all throughout it, it is loaded with all kinds of examples and stories. And you'll appreciate this too, Nicholas. All throughout it, we have artwork all throughout the book.
Awesome.
Because I want to bring these ideas to life as well, visually. Yeah. And so I'm excited for the experience that people will have when they read the book. Because for me, what's important is that this isn't just a book with a bunch of information in it. This is a book that I know can and will transform people's lives, and I want it to be consumed. So I paid just as much attention to the experience that people will have when they read this book as I did the information in the book, because it's not enough to buy the book. I want you reading the book, and I want you applying the book and using the book, because I know the difference that it will make. But at the end of the day, Nicholas, the reason I'm so proud of this book is because for 16 years, this has been my world, is helping people launch, grow, and scale memberships. And we've done it in virtually every kind of market you can think of, from photography and calligraphy to fitness and finance and music and art and health and dog training and balloon animal making and, you name it. And so what I know to be true is if somebody watching and listening has a passion or an interest in anything, there are other people in this world who share that same passion and interest. They're just waiting for somebody to create a place to bring everybody together. And why not you? And why not now? That's my whole thing, is like, now is the time. And there's just so much energy that comes with creating that place and bringing people together. And that's possible. And that's what I talk about in Predictable Profits.
Dude, your energy is just so great. And I'm so grateful because you guys, Stu changed my life. And it's so cool that there's going to be a book now with this information in it. But amazing, Stu. I'm so excited for you. And again, you guys, in the show notes, you can pre-order the book and follow Stu. And he gives so much cool stuff out online. But this, there's something that you're making that you want to do more of it, and you want to kind of get financial support doing it, monetize it in some way, or just build that community around. This book will really, really help. So, Stu, I'm incredibly grateful you hopped on today. It's just, I'm learning stuff, and I've been studying with you for 10 years. So it's kind of amazing.
Well, thanks, buddy. I appreciate you. You've blazed the trail for so many artists. And I really believe in artists. Like, artists in our community are some of the most successful membership sites. Yeah. I think of Alex Kincaid, over the pandemic, she was a lawyer and she got completely burnt out. And so she took up watercolor painting as a way to kind of de-stress. Yeah, yeah. And what's magical about it is that she wasn't some, expert artist that has been doing this her whole life. In fact, she didn't go to art school or anything of that nature. She just had an interest in watercoloring because it helped her like chill out. It helped her just decompress. Right. But here's what's magical, Nicholas, and this is a full circle to what we talked about earlier. She just started sharing it. She just started sharing it. And there was energy there. People were drawn to what she was doing. And she didn't claim to be, again, this expert. She didn't know like all the things. She didn't teach this stuff. She just had an interest in it. So she started sharing it. And one thing led to the other. And then she realized like people were asking her questions about her routine and how she was doing her things. And so again, she was just sharing how she was doing it.
Yeah.
This was just an interest in hers. But it led to one thing, which led to another, which led to another. This year, she's had her most success ever. She quit being a lawyer and she started sharing how to begin the journey of learning watercolor painting. And this business has blown up. And so I share this because, again, it all started with her having a willingness to just share it. And it began to open doors. And that's what I just want to leave everybody with, is just never underestimate where things can go. But you got to take that first step and just start sharing.
You know, I always, I have these conversations and I'm always thinking, well, I don't know what we're going to entirely call this little episode, but sharing is going to be in this title because it really unlocks. And Stu, listen, thank you so much. Really, again, grateful and really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, Nicholas. Appreciate you, buddy.